1 + 1, 11, and not 2. And this is the power of 11 that is going to work for the welfare of the humanity.
मैं राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप का मेरे एक अच्छे मित्र का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि हम फिर से एक बार प्रगति की राह पर नई ऊंचाइयों को छूने के लिए चल पड़ेंगे.
I once again thank my friend President Trump, and we together resolve that we will together march towards progress and towards prosperity for our nations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And he's doing a great job in India. Everybody talks about it. He's doing a really fantastic job. A great leader. Great leader.
मोदी जी बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं भारत में और हर कोई इसकी बात कर रहा है कि बहुत बड़े.
Of course he loves Modi. Remember, foreign policy uniparty, it's not like the Democrats were anti-Modi either.
तो के लिए और मुझे है कि भारत का हर नागरिक आपकी इस भावना का आदर करता है.
I thank you for your warm words, Mr. President, and I firmly believe that every person in India respects your sentiments.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
Any questions, please?
Yes, President. You are both very popular leaders in your respective countries. You've spoken about a common sense diplomatic doctrine. So what's a Trump-Modi doctrine that we should expect from the meetings today?
Trump doesn't know India is a part of BRICS. Trump thinks Spain is a part of BRICS.
Everything else will be the unity. We have great unity. We have great friendship, he and I and our countries. And I think it's only going to get closer. But it's very important that we remain united as countries. We're friends and we're going to stay that way.
President Trump.
I don't like that we're watching this in real time and not watching the so sorry version of events that will inevitably be shown, which is probably going to be the real truth of the matter.
We're going to do a really good job. We've done a fantastic job for the American people. We had a great 4 years, and we were interrupted by terrible administration, absolutely terrible. They didn't know what they were doing, and now we're putting it back together, and I think it's going to end up being much stronger than it was before, even much stronger than it was before.
President Trump, first of all, congratulations for the fantastic 24 days of your presidency. Historic and unprecedented decisions that you made, transformational reforms. I'm particularly impressed by the expose on USAID. And I would like you to share with us if you think USAID had a role in election interference in the US in 2020 and Indian elections in 2024.
So it could have had a role. There were a lot of bad things that happened in 2020. I think bad things happened in 2024, but it was too big to rig. We won by a tremendous margin. We won every swing state. We won the popular
This is my favorite thing that Trump does. When he just makes a foreign leader sit there and just responds to like the dumbest questions possible that have nothing to do with the foreign nation. And they just have to kind of sit there and be like, very cool. He does this every single time. It's amazing.
We had a great 2016. We had a much better 2020 election, but bad things happened. And we had the best of all. We had, they say, the most consequential in history, 129 years. Most consequential. So it was a great election, and it gives me a chance to work again with the Prime Minister and India. And we're going to have a great relationship together.
Mr. Prime Minister, कल प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने प्रेसिडेंट पुतिन से बात की है और युद्ध को रोकने की बात करी है. आप हमेशा से
Do you see India playing a role in your plan to broker a peace in Ukraine? And if I could ask you about a development in your hometown today, the U.S. attorney has resigned over the DOJ's request to drop the case into Eric Adams. Did you personally request the Justice Department to drop that case?
No, I didn't. I know nothing about it. I did not. I think that, just to answer your other question, we're just going to get along well. We're going to get along with all countries. We're going to do very well. We're going to be doing, I think, record business, record numbers. And we're going to work with India also. We have some very big trade deals to announce in the very near future.
प्रधानमंत्री जी कल प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप ने प्रेसिडेंट पुतिन से बात की है. आप दुनिया के अकेले ऐसे लीडर हैं जिन्होंने प्रेसिडेंट पुतिन से मीटिंग की है, प्रेसिडेंट जेलेंस्की से मीटिंग की है, पहले प्रेसिडेंट बाइडेन से मिले और अब प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप से मिले. आपको लग रहा है कि जिस शांति की बात आप करते आए थे उसमें अब भारत रूस और यूक्रेन को युद्ध खत्म कराने के लिए अमेरिका के साथ
India is not at all involved in Ukraine is a crazy thing to say, considering that any time there's sanctions, India becomes a secondary market to basically continue trade with the recipients of said sanctions. So no, they play a very formative role.
Soros, and what is the role that the deep state played in the situation in Bangladesh?
Well, there was no role for our deep state. It was
India is
this
buying Russian
something
oil to
that
sell to the West, and the West is
Prime
okay with
Minister's
that.
been working
Exactly.
on for a long time and has been worked on for hundreds of years, frankly. I've been reading about it. But I will leave Bangladesh to the Prime Minister.
Oh, he's doing the Illuminati hand gesture chatter. You're right. Stay woke.
रूस और यूक्रेन के बीच का लड़ाई का सवाल है. मुझे खुशी है कि राष्ट्रपति ट्रंप ने शांति के प्रयासों का इनिशिएटिव लेते हुए कल राष्ट्रपति पुतिन से बात की है. दुनिया का एक सोच रही है कि भारत न्यूट्रल है. भारत न्यूट्रल नहीं है. भारत का अपना पक्ष है और भारत का पक्ष है शांति. हम पहले दिन से ही, और मैंने राष्ट्रपति पुतिन को उनकी मौजूदगी में मीडिया के सामने कहा था कि ये समय युद्ध का नहीं है, और मेरा एक कन्विक्शन है कि समस्याओं का समाधान युद्ध के मैदानों में नहीं निकलता है, वो टेबल पर चर्चा करके ही निकलता है.
As far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned, I'm very happy that President Trump has taken initiatives to restore peace and had telephone calls with President Putin and President Zelensky. The world had this thinking that India somehow is a neutral country in this whole process, but this is not true. India has a side, and that side is of peace. From the very first day, I have been talking about the importance of dialogue and diplomacy and a peaceful solution. And when I met President Putin in the presence of media, I had told him that this is not the era of war. And I have firm conviction that problems cannot be resolved on the battlefield.
You're actually wrong. Our Sir Modi Vishwaguru ji actually stopped the war in Ukraine by telling both Russia and Ukraine that war is bad. My bad. My bad. You did do that.
Can you let him?
The BJP ran a campaign during the 2024 general elections where they said Modi stopped the war between Ukraine and Russia. He did. Dang, this chat is so racist. Wait, what's racist about?
And I think we went a long way toward getting a solution to the horrible war where so many people are being killed, especially soldiers on the battlefield.
I think you guys are misunderstanding. My chatters are making fun of the fascist hogs in India by explaining what the Modi campaign did that was a lie.
Tomorrow there's a meeting in Munich, and then next week there's a meeting
Also,
in Saudi
there's
Arabia.
Indian HasanAbi heads in here, including Arun.
Top officials, and Ukraine will be a part of it too. And we're going to see if we can end that war. That war is a horrible war. It's a vicious, bloody war. We want to end it. To your other question, that U.S. attorney was actually fired.
Also, saying that this community is hateful towards Indians is pretty funny. When, this is one of the few communities, as is the case with everything else, that actually tries to the best of their ability, combat anti-Indian sentiment. Anywhere else on the internet that you go to, as many of the Indian HasanAbi heads will openly admit, you can't even show an Indian person without literally the entirety of chat saying the most heinous, hateful shit possible. Like, it's crazy.
Big elements today of success. I call it an element of success. Reciprocal tariffs, so that somebody charges us, we charge them the same amount, which has never been done in our country before. We've always been taken advantage of by other
Some
countries.
Indian hogs think Trump is a secret Muslim. Oh, I love that.
We're not going to allow that any longer. So I think we're going to do very well. We've been doing They say the last 3 weeks was among the best 3 weeks.
That Nokia phone ringtone is basically bringing me back to my childhood. I haven't heard that shit since I left Turkey, dude.
Amazing. Even the Prime Minister mentioned it. I think
Almost all of my phones were Nokia.
I just want to thank everybody
Growing
for
up.
being here. This is a terrific man. We're going to make some wonderful trade deals for India and for the U.S. And thank you all very much. Thank you.
I wanted to clarify I'm an Indian HasanAbi head too. The racist comments were referring to some of the chats about the interpreter's accents and why Modi doesn't speak English. Modi does speak English. Many Indians speak English, Modi included. He just doesn't speak English in that official setting, I suspect. Modi probably speaks better English than like 50% of Americans. Most Indians speak better English than most Americans. India is the largest English-speaking country on the planet. Okay, you are reaching. I mean, Modi speaks significantly worse English than his predecessors. Lots of Indian leaders don't speak English well, and that's fine. No, not the second largest. India is the largest English-speaking country on the planet. It's a second language, obviously. That's a reach. I'm sorry. Wait, what? No. I think there's a larger English-speaking population in India, even though it is the second language. Or wait, is it total English speakers? No, not as a. I think there's more. I don't think this is correct. I think there's more English speakers in India. This is rigged. They're lying. They're lying and claiming that there's less Indians that speak English. I don't believe this. By total numbers, I thought India was the number one. Some dumbass just said British. It's British English, so it doesn't count. Okay, that wasn't a dumbass. That was correct. You were just given the facts. I don't believe it. Okay, it's fake news. Guess what? It's not just British colonialization, by the way. English is used as a link language for all the ethnic groups of India, especially in South India. We all speak English to one another. We're thinking of China for the highest number of English speakers? No, it's not China. Even though China does have a significant number of English as a second language speakers, I think. It's not China at all. It's mixed. It is mixed. Plenty of Sri Lankan and Indian immigrants here in Japan speak either English or American English, depending on their home schools. Law, such a weird hill to die on, Hasan. Why do you have to lie? About what? I mean, I'm memeing when I say it's India's number one in English speaking. I'll concede that I'm wrong on this, that America has more English speakers than India does, for sure. But as far as like an impressive number of Indians speaking English, like that is just the fact. Also, yeah, why do you think the H-1B visa conversation is about like Indian tech workers? What the Why do you think? It's because a shit ton of Indians speak English.
Thank you, Mr. President. People in India will naturally welcome your decision to extradite Thabu Rana to India back home. In that context, I would like to ask you a question about, in last few years, we have seen several groups in the U.S. raising anti-India voice, calling about separation, terrorism activities in India. Do you think that should continue here in the U.S. as well?
You're going to have to go louder.
Mr. President, people in India would be welcoming your decision to extradite Thabu Rana to...
I can't understand a word he's saying.
May I, sir? May I? May I, sir?
Oh my God!
Go ahead back there.
Mr. President, thank you. First, I want to ask
thank
the
you
Prime
very much.
Minister a question. You and the President, you both spoke about combating ISIS. You both sounded very exciting about this.
This got to be a
excited
Breitbart
about this
guy.
partnership upcoming. And I was curious, how much more confident are you with President Trump leading this country that there will be peace through strength and you will have a successful partnership with the
United States? Dude, I hate this new formation! I hate it! They have these like fucking random Breitbart guys who are like, Mr. President, I'll have it on good authority that your dick is long and fat. Mr. President, can you tell me how hard you can blow out my fucking back walls, dude? I'm with the Milk Boys.
We're going to have a fantastic relationship, and it has been, look, the whole world's been set back over the
literally tens of years, decades of journalism down the goddamn drain, okay? Straight up. Room filled to the brim with industry plants that are like, Mr. President, I'm with the doo-doo caca coalition. You just gave us press access and you kicked out those losers over at Associated Press. Now I have the standing position here and I'm here. Sir, will you give me permission to do tricks on it? I'll freaking love you, dog. I don't even have a question. I'm here to just tell you that you're the great white hope.
The great white hope.
It's literally insane, okay? They're going to have fucking Asmongold in there being like, Mr. President, sir, will you make titties in video games larger? That's what we're doing. That's the next step. Mr. President, sir, Korean titties are dominating the American marketplace. Can we make sure that Western titties are also fappable in video games?
In India to bring him to justice, but there are many other elements in the United States of America, particularly Khalistani separatists who've been working against Indian interests. How is the United States of America going to cooperate on that front with India? There have been allegations that have been leveled against India.
Will you let India assassinate Khalistani separatists on U.S. soil? Just like we did in Canada, sir.
Well, I don't think India had a very good relationship with the Biden administration. Biden, they wouldn't sell them oil and gas, which is rather hard to believe because, it's a good thing to do. And a lot of things happened that weren't very appropriate, I thought, between India and the administration, the Biden administration. But as you said, we're giving a very violent man, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know that he's been convicted yet or will be, but let's assume he's a pretty violent person. We're giving him back to India immediately, and there are more to follow because we have quite a few requests. So we work with India on crime, and we want to make it good for India, and it's very important. So that kind of a relationship is very important to us. Okay? Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. President, you've repeatedly called India a big abuser of trade and said it is really difficult to do business in India because of tariffs. You announced reciprocal tariffs today. I am hoping you can speak about what kind of reciprocal tariffs India can expect. Are you willing to make any concessions? And how can India head off these tariffs? I also have one for the Prime Minister.
Well, India's been, to us, just about the highest tariffed nation anywhere in the world. They've been very strong on tariffs, and I don't blame them necessarily, but it's a different way of doing business. It's very hard to sell into India because they have trade barriers, very strong tariffs. We are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them. Whatever another country charges, we're charging them. So it's called reciprocal, which I think is a very fair way. We didn't have that. I was going to do that in my other term, and we had the greatest economy ever in the world. There's never been an economy like we had, and then we got hit with COVID. We had to focus on that, and I wasn't really in the mood to be putting it on Italy and Spain and France and India, frankly, and a lot of other countries, because the world was very troubled until we got rid of that nightmare. But we had the strongest economy anywhere in the world during that fairly long period of time during my first term, as you know, and we didn't do the tariffs. We would have done the reciprocal tariffs, but we decided, and I decided, I think on a human basis, on a humane basis, not to do them because of the fact that there was such suffering all over the world. The last thing we needed to talk about is trade problems. But now we do. We're doing, we see a tremendous future for our country. But we felt that now it's finally time, after 45 or 50 years of abuse, that we will do, and this isn't India, this is among a lot of nations. The European Union is very difficult for us, very, very difficult. They tax our companies at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They take advantage of a lot of things, so we're not happy about that. China, of course, is terrible, and we've never taken in 10 cents until I was president. We've taken in hundreds of billions of dollars from China since I've been president in first term and now. And we have to do that just as a mechanism of fairness. And that's what I've done. And so we are being reciprocal with India. Whatever India charges, we charge them. So frankly, it no longer matters to us that much what they charge, because whatever they charge. I had discussions with India in the first term about the fact that their tariffs were very high, and I was unable to get a concession. So we're just going to do it the easy way, and we're just going to say whatever you charge, we charge. And I think that's fair for the people of the United States, and I think it's actually fair for India. Okay?
To make any concessions, sir? Are you willing to make any concessions, sir? Any concessions?
So what? So what does that mean? Yeah, tariffs are the reason that Modi's there. Modi may ask the Trump admin to drop charges on Gautam Adani that the New York court has pressed. But I think, yes, tariffs first and foremost is the reason why he's meeting with Trump.
Illegal immigration, and India has been cooperating on this issue. How does India see this issue in the larger context? Thank you.
I don't think this is a question that is about India only, but even globally you can talk about this issue. And we are of the opinion that anybody who enters another country illegally.
Cuck, he sent back undocumented immigrants of Indian descent in a military plane. And obviously, when you're a nationalist fascist, that's a major L for you. And it apparently made the news in India. People were very mad. And now he has to turn around and be like, no, it's great that he did it in handcuffs. My glorious leader.
Are fully prepared to take them back to India.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't stop there. These are children of very ordinary families, and they
It's always funny
are
how the
lured.
left get their news from TikTok moms. Lol, Trump for the win. There is no, you can't ban this guy. This guy's my favorite guy. Are you kidding me? Please never ban this guy. Are you joking? That's a right-wing hog that thinks it is the left that's getting their news from TikTok moms. While simultaneously, if he's a right-winger, he thinks all news is fake news. That's my new favorite guy. He thinks random shit on Twitter is real.
Human trafficking, and basically the young, vulnerable, poor people of India are fooled into coming over as illegal immigrants. And our bigger fight actually is against this ecosystem or this system that encourages such gangs to thrive. And I can tell you that India will completely
I can tell you
support
that they're Muslim.
your endeavor.
It's the Muslims that are building the gangs in India.
Thank you, Mr. President.
To ship Indian migrants.
If I may, I wanted to ask you: did you discuss any possible business deals with Elon Musk during your meetings today, Mr. Prime Minister? And Mr. President, I wanted to ask you: today you spoke about hoping to have three-way talks with President Xi and President Putin. What would you say to European leaders and other allies who may be concerned that you're apparently more keen to speak to America's adversaries than to its allies? Thank you.
Well, maybe I'll just go first on this one. We had some talks, and we told the European Union, we told the NATO people, largely they overlap, you have to pay more money because it's unfair what we're doing. We're doing a tremendous amount more. We're probably $200 billion more going into Ukraine, using for Ukraine to fight. And Europe has not really carried its weight in terms of the money. It's not equitable. And we want to see a counterbalance. We want to have them put up more money. They have to do that. At the same time, we had a very good conversation with President Putin yesterday, and we also had a very good conversation. I did in both cases with President Zelensky. And I think we're going to be able to do something. I think we're going to be able to make a deal. And I hope so, because it's a horrible war. It's a very terrible, bloody war with 1.5 million soldiers at least already dead on the battlefield, lying all over the fields like nobody's ever seen anything like it, certainly since the Second World War. And so I think we're going to be able to do something. We're working with President Zelensky and with President Putin, and my impression is that I know that.
Yeah, he's going to tear up Ukraine next.
That I know that President Putin wants to make a deal. I wanted to know that before I began any detailed discussions.
It's the most beautiful word in the language, in the English language.
The conversation, also the meeting with Steve Witkoff in Moscow was a very successful one, and my phone call with him was a very successful one. Please.
You asked a question regarding Elon Musk. I have known him for a very long time. I was not even a prime minister at the time when I first met him. I was chief minister. And today he came to meet me along with all his family, with his children. And so we had a nice discussion. As far as the EV is concerned, EVs are concerned, the EV, the word EV has a copyright and that is one person who has a copyright for the word EV, and that is Trump.
What?
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I ask whether you discussed at all today the case of Gautam Adani, who's one of the wealthiest men in Asia and perceived as an ally of Prime Minister Modi? Prime Minister Modi, have you asked the President to take action on that case? Thank you.
Arun was correct.
Firstly, India is a democratic country, and our culture and our thought philosophy is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which basically means that the entire world is a family. Every Indian is my own family member. And when it comes to such personal matters, leaders of two countries will not get together on that topic and discuss anything on an individual matter.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, please. Sir, go ahead, please.
Yes.
He said it's just a little bit of bribes, okay? Why are you getting in the way?
For you as well. But Mr. President, you have suggested, with regards to the Russia-Ukraine war, you've suggested several things that Ukraine should give up. The idea of NATO membership, territory that was seized back in 2014 by Russia. What should Russia give up?
Russia has gotten themselves into something that I think they wish they didn't. If I were president, it would not have happened. Absolutely would not have happened. And it didn't happen for 4 years. If you look at what has taken place under President...
The Adani case is that he got caught with hundreds of millions of dollars of bribes to basically dominate the solar energy sector. And it's one of those things that administrations do where they'll pull on certain, it's not because they want to follow the law or whatever, but it's because they probably wanted to add a pressure point.
Ukraine, and when you look at the mess that they're in, it's got to be ended and it's got to be stopped. Now, Russia's taken over a pretty big chunk of territory, and they also have said from day one, long before President Putin, they've said they cannot have Ukraine be in NATO. They said that very strongly. I actually think that that was the thing that caused the start of the war, and Biden said it, and Zelensky said it, and I think that was one of the reasons, one of the starts of the war. But from long before Putin, they said you cannot have Ukraine
foreign policy
going
expert
in any way
on.
into NATO.
Thanks, man.
And I start from that standpoint. I think everybody knew that.
I'm sorry. I should have said that the American government and district attorneys actually do care about the letter of the law and certainly will prosecute, especially foreign criminals, because they care about the law and not because they want to apply pressure that I am admitting I don't know what their true purpose was when they're prosecuting the second wealthiest person in India. I know this from my own personal experience with how the American government operates against Turkey regularly.
But I will say, as far as NATO is concerned, from many years before President Putin, I will tell you that I've heard that Russia would never accept that. And I think Ukraine knew that because Ukraine wasn't in and never requested to be in until more recently. So that's the way it is, and I think that's the way it's going to have to be. Go ahead, please. All right, go ahead, please, with the tie. With the tie, yeah.
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, please.
This is Saurabh Shukla from News Mobile. Mr. President, you spoke about Prime Minister Modi as a tough negotiator. Who was a tougher negotiator today, and who has a better negotiating
I'm sorry. Okay, dude. The Indian journalists allowed into the room are hand selected by Modi's team, I think. It is insane. The questions coming from the white journalists, the Western journalists are also insane. But there is an additional level of glaze coming from the Indian journalists.
How do you see
one of them didn't even ask a question. They just said, "You are the king of EV." What the is going on in this room, man?
Ukraine and Russia conflict.
Well, I think we're going to have a very good relationship with China. I got along with President Xi very well until COVID. That was a bridge too far. But until then, I got along with President Xi very, very well. We were.
That's because Modi has never held a press conference? Yeah, well, he still is not holding a press conference. You cannot consider this a press conference. This is crazy. The CNN cut away from it.
At the White House answering reporters' questions right now. The Prime Minister.
Would you have it different? Like if you were president, Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to have it different, at least to create like the aesthetics of discourse. It's
A very
ridiculous.
strong nuclear power. He's not very close to Russia or the United States right now, but he will be soon. I mean, he'll catch up over the period of 4 or 5 years.
Didn't
they
Modi have an
say.
interview where they asked Mr. President, do you have
But
any close
it would be a
friends?
great
Or
thing
no,
if
it
we
was
could,
what
on
did
a
you eat for
military
lunch?
basis. We're going to spend this year 900, let's say $915 billion on military. Russia, without the war, was spending close to 100, but with the war, I can't tell you what they're spending, but they're spending a lot. And China is spending 400 and $450 billion. We're over $900 billion. And I said, you know, it doesn't really make sense, does it? We're spending the money against each other, and we could spend that money for better purpose if we got along. And I'll tell you, I think that something like that will happen. First, when I left, as you know, 4 years ago, we didn't have Israel and the Middle East. We didn't have October 7th, disaster, the disaster. Nothing was happening.
Mr. Modi,
Iran
sir,
was
do you
not
like mangoes?
going to do anything because Iran did not have much money at that point.
Trump
They were
probably
broke.
looks at that and is like, damn, Modi runs a tight ass ship, dude. I love that. I need more Breitbart journalists in this fucking room to ask me if I eat mangoes too.
Happened. But now I come back and I have the whole world is on fire, so I have to put out the fires. But after I put out the fires, I'm going to meet with China and I'm going to meet with Russia, and we're going to see if we can de-escalate it. We can bring it down military, especially as it pertains to nuclear. Please.
Prime Minister, how do you see India's role? You have had discussions with President Trump about de-escalating the conflict in Russia and Ukraine. As you know, I have been in constant contact with both Russia and Ukraine. I have also visited both countries. And many people are mistaken and they feel that India is neutral. I would like to clarify, India is not neutral. We have taken a side, and we have taken the side of peace. And it is based on this principle of ours that in the presence of President Putin, I clearly said in front of the media that this is not the era of war. And even today, it is my conviction that solutions cannot be found on the battlefield. Ultimately, you have to come to the negotiating table, and India has constantly made efforts that there are talks that take place where both parties are present. It is only then that we will find a solution. The efforts being made by President Trump, I support them, I welcome them, and I would like that President Trump is successful as soon as possible so that the world is on the path to peace once again.
Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I very much appreciate the Prime Minister visiting our great country, and I do really appreciate it. We have so much in common, and all we want to do is have peace, and we want to have strength, and we want to have lots of different things together. But the relationship with India and with the Prime Minister has never been better. Thank you very much.
Oh, they definitely have a lot in common. That much is true, baby. CNN fact check. Oh my God.
Right now we're joined by CNN's new senior political and global affairs commentator.
Oh yeah,
Rahm
Ested had a
Rahm,
banger.
thanks so much for joining us. You're the former ambassador
Will.
to Japan, so you know this.
Oh my God. Oh my God. The great defiler of the Democratic Party. A person who got one of the sweetest gigs of all time.
He talks about the war in Ukraine. He never mentioned that it was Russia that invaded. It's not like it's just a war appeared like Immaculate Conception. He never refers to how it started. He then, you take a look at this, there's a reason why, and there's reporting that Kremlin is high-fiving each other, and in the Munich conference and in Kyiv, they're wringing their hands. Before even the negotiations started, he's agreed that Ukraine can never be part of NATO. Well, how about Ukraine can join the EU, the market, which is...
Okay. In Japan, he was kind of great because he just made Twitter posts in Japanese about how great trains are. I have it on good authority that apparently he played a role in the LDP pushing for, I think it was like some kind of like legislation for, I think it was gay marriage. When LDP was pushing for gay marriage, he came out and he tweeted about it saying like, finally, Japan is actually, doing the right thing about gay people or whatever. And all of the opposition parties used that as a reason to tank it. Like they were like, oh, look, see, this is like American woke culture. By the way, speaking of American hogs dominating discourse all around the globe, this is also a major point of contention even in a place like Japan, which I would say is, for the most part, servile to American interests.